Why do you want to climb Everest? The journalist asked George Mallory this question in simple question. Expected a simple answer. Mallory looked at him, thought for a moment, then said three words that became legendary. Because it's there. That's it. No grand speech, no philosophical explanation, just three words. But those three words explained everything, and nothing. Because Everest wasn't just there, it was impossible, deadly, unconquered. No human had ever stood on its summit. Most believed no human ever could. The altitude was too high, the cold too extreme, the mountain too dangerous. But Mallory didn't care about impossible, he only cared about there. George Mallory was born in England, middle-class family, nothing special, nothing extraordinary, except one thing. He couldn't stop climbing. As a boy, he climbed trees, buildings, cliffs, anything vertical. His mother worried, his father scolded, but George couldn't stop. Why do you climb? They asked. Even then, he had the same answer. I don't know, I just have to. By 20, he was climbing the Alps. By 30, he was one of Britain's best climbers. Tall, handsome, intelligent, a school teacher, married, 3 children. He had everything. A good life, a safe life, a happy life. But it wasn't enough. Something pulled at him. Something unsatisfied. Something incomplete. Then, in 1921, he heard about Everest. The British were planning an expedition, a reconnaissance mission. Not to climb it, just to look, to study, to see if climbing it was even possible. Mallory volunteered immediately. His wife, Ruth, was worried. You have children, you have responsibilities. Mallory nodded. I know, but I have to see it. Why? Why? He couldn't explain. Because it's there. Ruth didn't understand. But she let him go. The 1921 expedition wasn't a summit attempt, just exploration, mapping routes, testing conditions. But when Mallory first saw Everest, something changed inside him. He stood there staring at the mountain, and he knew. This wasn't just a climb, this was his purpose. A fellow climber asked, "What do you think? Can it be climbed?" Mallory didn't hesitate. Yes, and I'm going to be the one to do it. That confidence, that certainty, that obsession, it would define the rest of his life and cause his death. Second expedition. This time they would try for the summit. Mallory led the attempt, reached 7,000 meters, higher than any human before. But then disaster struck. An avalanche. 7 Sherpas buried, all dead. Mallory was devastated. He had pushed too hard, been too ambitious, and men died. The expedition ended. Mallory returned home, broken, guilty. Ruth hoped he would quit. You tried, you went higher than anyone, that's enough. But Mallory shook his head. It's not enough. Not until I reach the top. Why? Ruth begged. Why does it matter so much? Mallory struggled to explain. Because every time I see that mountain, it challenges me. It asks, are you capable? And I need to answer. But at what cost? Ruth asked. Mallory had no answer. By 1924, Mallory was obsessed. It consumed him. Every thought, every dream. Friends noticed. George, you're different. You're distant, always thinking about that mountain. Mallory knew they were right, but he couldn't stop. The mountain had become more than a climb. It was a test, a validation, a need. He told Ruth, if I don't climb it, I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I could have. And if you die trying? Ruth asked quietly. Then at least I'll die knowing I tried. Ruth cried. She knew she couldn't stop him. The mountain had him now. The third expedition formed, 1924. Mallory was chosen again. He was 37 now. Older, slower, more tired than before. Some questioned if he should go. You've tried twice, failed twice. Maybe it's time to let someone younger try. Mallory refused. This is my mountain. I've given too much to walk away now. Before leaving, he sat with his children, 3 young faces looking up at him. His daughter asked, Papa, why do you have to go again? Mallory tried to explain, because there's something I need to finish, something important. More important than us? She asked. Mallory's heart broke. But he said, nothing is more important than you. But if I don't do this, I won't be complete, and you deserve a father who is complete. His son, just 10 years old, said, promise you'll come back. Mallory hugged him. I promise I'll try. That was the last time they saw him. The 1924 expedition began. Mallory was determined. This was it, success or death. He chose a young partner, Andrew Irvine, only 22 years old, inexperienced on Everest. Others questioned the choice. Why Irvine? He's never climbed this high. Mallory's answer, because he's strong, he's brave, and he won't quit. Mallory saw himself in Irvine. That same fire, that same need. Together, they would either conquer Everest or die trying. As they prepared for the final summit push, Mallory wrote a letter to Ruth. Dearest Ruth, this is it, the final attempt. If we succeed, I'll be home soon. If we fail, well, you'll know I gave everything. He didn't mail it, kept it in his pocket, a last connection to home. On June 8, 1924, Mallory and Irvine left for the summit. The last person to see them alive was Noel Odell, a fellow climber watching from below. At 12:50 p.m., Odell saw two tiny figures high on the mountain, moving upward toward the summit. Then clouds rolled in, and they disappeared. Odell waited, watched, hoped. The clouds never cleared, the figures never reappeared. Mallory and Irvine were gone. Did they reach the summit? Did they achieve what Mallory sacrificed everything for? Nobody knows. The mountain kept that secret for 75 years. But here's what we do know. Mallory climbed because he had to. Not for fame, not for glory. Because something inside him demanded it. Because it's there. Wasn't a flippant answer. It was the truth. The mountain existed. Therefore, it had to be climbed. By him, no matter the cost. That obsession drove him to greatness. And to death. Most people never find their Everest, never find that thing they'd give everything for. Mallory found his, and he gave everything. Was it worth it? That's the wrong question. For Mallory, there was no choice. The mountain called. He answered, because it's there. 3 words, a philosophy, a justification, an obsession. George Mallory climbed Everest because he couldn't not climb it, and somewhere on that mountain he's still there. Forever.